Okay, imagine finding out there might be some money, maybe even a good chunk of it, just sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, like specifically COVID-19 stimulus money, up to $1,400 possibly, straight from the IRS.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive into these unclaimed payments, the third round mostly.
That's the one. From the American Rescue Plan back in March 2021, we've been looking at some articles, NBC, Chicago, KQED. They've got good details.
And our goal here, our mission, is really to help you figure out, could you be eligible and what do you absolutely have to do because there's a deadline.
A really important deadline, yeah. And it's coming up faster than you might think.
Wasn't there an announcement earlier this year? The IRS said something about billions still unclaimed.
Yeah, around $2.4 billion, I think, for people who just never got those stimulus payments they were supposed to.
So how do people claim it now? Is there a specific way?
There is. It's called the Recovery Rebate Credit. Basically, it's the mechanism on your tax return to claim stimulus payments you missed out on.
Ah, okay. So if you missed a payment in 2020 or 2021, this credit is how you get it.
Exactly. And it seems a lot of people might have missed it. The IRS commissioner, Danny Werfel,
Mm-hmm.
he mentioned something like 1 million taxpayers might have overlooked this specific credit just on their 2021 returns.
Wow, a million. That's
Mhm.
that's a lot of people potentially leaving money on the table.
It really is. It makes
Yeah.
you wonder why, maybe
Ah,
just confusion at the time.
could be. So let's focus on that third check, the March 2021 one. How much was that supposed to be again?
That one was up to $1,400 per person, per individual.
Okay.
And importantly, another $1,400 for each dependent.
So for a family, that could be quite significant.
Absolutely, it adds up fast.
Now, originally back in 2021, who got that automatically? What was that based on?
The first wave of payments went out based on information the IRS already had, usually from 2019 or 2020 tax returns.
Right. So if you filed those years and qualified, you likely got it then.
Probably, yes. This recovery rebate credit, it's really geared towards those who didn't get it initially.
Okay, maybe because they hadn't filed taxes yet.
That's a big reason. Yeah. If you hadn't filed for 2019 or 2020 when they were sending checks out, they wouldn't have known to send you one.
So filing your 2021 taxes became the way to tell the IRS, hey, I was eligible, send me that money.
Exactly. That 2021 return is the key document for this specific credit now.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What makes someone eligible for this recovery rebate credit for that third payment?
Right. Based on the IRS info and what NBC, Chicago, and KQED reported, first, you needed to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. resident alien for the whole year 2021.
Okay. Citizen or resident alien in 2021. What else?
Second, you couldn't be claimed as a dependent on someone else's 2021 tax return.
Right. Prevents double dipping. Makes sense.
Third, you need a valid Social Security number. There are a couple of nuances there, though.
Like what?
Well, you could still qualify if you're filing jointly with a spouse who has an SSN, or if you're claiming a dependent on that 2021 return who has either an SSN or an adoption taxpayer identification number, an ATN.
Okay, so an SSN generally needs to be in the picture somewhere. What about income? Did your 2021 income matter?
It did, but maybe not how you'd expect. Even if you had very little income, or maybe even no income in 2021,
Yeah.
or maybe you were on unemployment, you could still be eligible. But the critical thing, the absolute must-do, is file that 2021 tax return.
That's huge. So even if someone thought, oh, I didn't make enough to file, they still need to file to get this potential $1,400.
Yes. Filing that return is the only way to claim the credit if you didn't get the payment automatically.
Gotcha. Now, who definitely isn't eligible? Are there clear disqualifiers?
There are. First, if you were a non-resident alien in 2021 and you don't have an SSN, like if you file using an ITNN, an individual taxpayer identification number,
Okay.
then you wouldn't be eligible for this credit.
So that SSN connection is pretty solid then. What about income limits? Were there phase-outs?
Yes, definitely. Based on your 2021 adjusted gross income, or AGI, that's your income after certain deductions.
Right. What were the limits?
Okay, so for single filers, if your AGI was over $80,000 in 2021, you were phased out. No credit.
$80 for single. What about couples?
Married filing jointly, the limit was $160,000.
Okay.
And for head of household filers, it was $112,500.
So if your 2021 income was above those levels, this credit likely isn't for you, even if you missed the first payment somehow.
That's generally right. Those income caps are pretty firm for the 2021 credit.
Now, that deadline you mentioned earlier, let's circle back to that. How
Well,
critical is it?
it is absolutely critical. The
Yeah.
date is April 15, 2025. That's tax day next year.
Okay.
It is the last day to file that 2021 tax return to claim this recovery rebate credit.
April 15th, 2025. Why that specific date? What's the logic?
Well, the IRS usually gives you a 3-year window, 3 years from the original due date of a tax return to file it and claim any refund or credit you're owed.
And the original due date for 2021 taxes was back in 2022.
Right, it was April 18th, 2022. So you add 3 years.
And that gets you to April 2025.
Exactly. Amy Spivey, she's from UC College of the Law, she pointed this out clearly. She said the 3-year grace period is, quote, expiring on April 15th, 2025.
So it's not just thinking about it, you have to get the paperwork in.
Yes. Spivey also emphasized that if you mail it by April 15th, 2025, and you have proof of mailing, like certified mail,
Yeah.
that preserves your right to claim the credit. But you need that action by the deadline.
Man, that really puts the pressure on. Time is ticking. And didn't the IRS say there were tons of people just in California who hadn't claimed refunds for 2021?
Yeah, the estimate back in March was something like over 116,000 Californians alone.
Wow. So nationally, it must be huge.
It strongly suggests that yes, and Amy Spivey mentioned this too, that a lot of folks they talked to just didn't know that this was still an option.
So the message is clear. If you haven't filed 2021 and you think you might be owed that $1,400 file by April 15th, 2025.
Absolutely. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so how are these payments actually happening now? Is the IRS just sending checks?
Well, for some people, yes. The IRS actually started sending some automatic payments out this past month, January,
Automatic. To who?
to people who did file a 2021 return, but maybe they left the recovery rebate credit part blank
Yeah.
or put 0, even though the IRS thinks they might have been eligible.
Oh, that's helpful of them. So they're kind of catching those potential errors.
Trying to, yeah. They said these payments should go out either by direct deposit
Okay.
to the bank account used on a 2023 return or by paper check to the address they have on file.
And those should arrive soon.
They expected most to arrive by the end of January, so pretty quickly.
That's good for those folks. But what about someone listening now who realizes, oh, wait, I never filed for 2021 at all? What do they do?
They cannot wait for an automatic payment. If you haven't filed your 2021 return, you must file it.
Okay.
And you have to specifically claim the recovery rebate credit on that return. And again,
By April 15th, 2025.
April 15th, 2025, that deadline is firm.
And just to hammer it home, even if you had zero income in 2021, you still have to file that return to claim this credit.
Correct. Filing is the trigger. Commissioner Werfel basically said the automatic payments were to minimize headaches for people who already filed.
Right.
So they wouldn't need to amend returns. But if you never filed, you've got to start the process yourself.
Okay. And I assume the IRS website probably has more info if people want to check eligibility details?
Yes, definitely. IRS.gov has a whole section on the recovery rebate credit. Good place to start.
Now, the big question for many, I bet, penalties. If I file my 2021 taxes way late, like now in 2025, am I going to get hit with penalties?
That's a really common concern. The general rule is penalties for filing late usually only apply if you owe the IRS money for that year.
So if the only reason you're filing is to claim this $1,400 credit and you didn't actually owe any tax for 2021,
Then you likely won't face a late filing penalty.
Yeah.
Amy Spivey confirmed this. If the IRS owes you a refund, like just for the stimulus credit, there's no penalty for filing late to claim it.
phew, okay. That's a relief for many, I'm sure. But what if someone did owe taxes for 2021? Maybe they underwithheld or something.
Okay. In that case, yes,
Yeah.
a late filing penalty would probably apply. It's usually calculated as a percentage of the tax you owed for 2021.
So you'd owe the original tax plus a penalty for being late.
Correct. But, and this is an important but from Amy Spivey,
Yeah.
she pointed out it still might be worth filing even then because that $1,400 recovery rebate credit, it can directly reduce the amount of tax you owe for 2021.
Oh, I see. So the $1,400 credit could effectively lower your tax bill, potentially offsetting some or all of the tax and maybe even the penalty.
Exactly. It can definitely lessen the financial hit of owing taxes from back then.
Okay, that's a really good point. Worth considering even if you know you owe.
Right.
Are there any other catches, anything else people need to know if they're filing 2021 now?
There is one important IRS caveat. They said that if you're due a refund for 2021, like this credit, you might not actually get that refund paid out if you haven't also filed your tax returns for the more recent years, specifically 2022 and 2023.
Ah, okay. So the IRS wants you to be generally current on your filings before they'll send out older refunds.
Seems to be the policy, yes.
Huh?
So make sure those are filed too, or get them filed.
Good to know. What if this all sounds too complicated or someone tries to file and gets denied? Is there help available?
Definitely. Amy Spivey strongly recommended looking into free or low-cost tax clinics,
Hmm.
like the VIA program or clinics associated with law schools, like the one at UC Law.
What can they help with?
They can help if dealing with the IRS seems daunting, if the paperwork is confusing, or specifically if you filed and your claim for the Recovery Rebate Credit was denied. They might be able to help resolve issues.
That sounds like a great resource, especially for people who might find taxes intimidating.
For sure, they're designed to assist taxpayers navigate these kinds of situations.
So stepping back for a second, this third stimulus payment we've been focused on, it wasn't the only one, right? There were earlier ones too.
No, that's right. There were 3 main rounds during the pandemic.
Can you quickly recap?
Sure. First one was March 2020 under the CARES Act. That was up to $1,200 per person plus $500 per child.
Okay.
Then December 2020, Consolidated Appropriations Act. That was smaller, up to $600 per person plus $600 per child.
Right.
And then the third one, March 2021 American Rescue Plan. That's the big one we're talking about now. Up to $1,400 per person plus $1,400 per dependent.
And for all three, the actual amount depended on your income, filing status, number of dependents, all that stuff.
Exactly. All those factors played a role.
Yeah.
And added up, I mean, across all 3 rounds, the government sent out something like $814 billion in total.
Wow. Huge amount. Okay, so let's boil this down one last time for everyone listening.
Okay.
If you think, even maybe, that you missed out on that third stimulus payment, the $1,400 one from 2021, and you meet the criteria, U.S. citizen, resident, alien in 21, not a dependent, got an SSN involved, income below the limits.
The $80K, $160K, $112, and $5K limits.
Right. Then you absolutely must file your 2021 tax return.
Yes. File it and claim the Recovery Rebate Credit on it.
And the deadline, the absolute final day, is
April 15th, 2025.
That's the critical takeaway. This is really the last chance for anyone who hasn't filed 2021 taxes to potentially get this money.
It really is. And it could be, a pretty significant amount of money for some folks. Unexpected help.
Definitely. Think about what $1,400 or maybe $2,800 or even more, depending on dependents, could do. It's worth checking out before that deadline.
Absolutely.
It does make you think, though, why did so many people miss out? Was it just the chaos of the time, lack of awareness? And it kind of makes you wonder what other financial assistance or opportunities might be out there that people just aren't aware of. Something to consider.